Hi everyone. As discussed in the previous video, we're going to develop a PowerShell script for each of the conditions which satisfy the subscription management. So you can look at the previous video where I mentioned what are we trying to work on the scenario point of view. But now let's discuss about how we can use PowerShell and identify every resource whether it's having a tag value of user type and if it is having a tag value of user type, then it is fine. If it is not having a tag value of user type, then we're going to append the value of junior into that. The reason why we do this is because we wanted to understand uh, that all the resources should be tagged. If they are not being tagged, we are tagging it as junior, and that has a risk of being deleted every day by evening 7:30 p.m. And for that we are trying to right now tag it. So let's try to get into the script point of view and observe how we are gonna add for every resource a tag value called user type junior if they don't have a user type as a tag value. First we are going to get the list of resources, and that is resource. So if I go into PowerShell and type this command, give a format table to get the list in the format, and this is what it is. And even I can look at uh, the tags of each of the resource. So if you see, these are the resources which have so and so tags, which these are empty but they are not null value, but these are like null values whichever are not having anything. And there are few resources, one has two has user type junior, the other one has just user type but there is no value. So all these resources, including this one and this one, should be appended with user type as a tag, and the value should be junior. So how are we going to do that? Let's deep dive into it. Now first, uh, list of resources and subscription. And once we get that, we store this resources list, create a variable called resources list, and I'm going to store that there. And so I'm going to run for each resource and taking every column in resources list. So what happens when I try to run this command? The entire list uh, resources list will have this entire list of resources we just now seen it. If I give ft, we'll see that entire set of resources. Now I'll take each of this resource, each row, and I will check whether they're having a tag or not. That's what we have to do, right? We have to go for each resource and we have to check whether they're having a tag or not. So here it is, resource dot tags user type. And when I try this, let's see what is the output. So because we have to understand what is happening. Now we are seeing that few they're actually showing the value whichever is having junior, and when there is an empty one, if we see there is an empty value, so even that was being shown there. And the rest were actually, when you're calling user type, that was a null value, there was no tags value, so it was trying to say you can't call those values, and that's why we are seeing this operation. So for that we'll try a try catch statement. So when I'm calling, I wanted to get the values. What values I wanted to get? I'm going to store the value $tag equals, and I'm going to say Here catch. What does catch do? It doesn't have, if this is not there, it is throwing an error. Try catch is trying to say that when you're calling this, and if it throws an error, I'm going to say that there is no tag called user type, because it's actually throws an error, so there is no user type tag. So automatically I will say I'll create a variable called resources with no tag, and I'll create an empty array, and I'm going to define this here and add it in this list. So whichever no tags are there, it will be there in this variable, and I'll try to add in the future, after this, for each statement I'll try to add tags to that. So for that I'm just keeping this at this point of time. And then the try catch statement, if there is a value, so if tag, if there is an user type tag, then automatically if you see, it comes as junior. So if tag is in junior or senior, then write output user type tag exists for resource, and I'm going to mention resource dot name and of resource type, and the same thing, resource dot resource type. So if there is a tag value, then it just prints and it does nothing. Whereas if it doesn't print, so it is not throwing an error, means it is not an, when it is not throwing an error, just like the way it is, it's not throwing an error, then it doesn't have a value. So I'm going to create one more string where I'm saying that resource with tag no value, and I'm going to add it in this. So let me try right now running it, and let's see what happens. Clear the statement. The user type tag exists for VM disk of resource type. So if I go back to this and look at my VM EastUS OS disk and my VM EastUS OS disk, I look at tags. I have a tag called user type junior. So it is trying to say it's having it. The next one is I have my VM OS disk. So if you look at my VM OS disk, and even here I have a tag. So the rest of the services doesn't have a tag of user type, or they don't have a value of junior or senior. In that kind of cases, we have to append it. But let us see whether resources with no tag, and I'll see FT. So these are the ones which has no tag. So I'll go with Network Watcher East US, and I'll look at tags. Does we have any tags? There are no tags. And similarly, I'll go and choose public IP address, East US public IP. So here, if I go East US public IP, here also I don't have tags. So this is good. The next one is resources with tag but no value. So these are the ones which are empty. So if I look at select name comma tags, if you see, they are not null, but they're having, but they're not null, but they're also not having user type of value, or not having the user type. So we'll try to take these elements, and we're going to, what do we say? We're going to, so in each of this, what we have to ensure also is tag is mentioned as null after the statement. And then first I'll take resources with no tag. And I'll say for each object, what I'm going to do is take dot tags. These tags were uh, not being defined. So the first thing which I have to do is I have to define the tags new hyphen object. So let me go and understand when they're not having any values. No tag, and there are elements in that. So take the first element, and this is the one, and I wanted to understand what is the type of it. Now if you go for get type, you will get so it's a null value, that is why it was not there. But we can go and look at the ones which have tags resources with no tag value of 0, and I ask for get type. I see it's a resource, PS resource, but even this is not appropriate. Resource list. Yeah, I'm actually looking at the wrong one. So I have to look for tags, and there I have to ask for get type. And if you see, it's a dictionary. So dictionary is one of the object. And if you go to PowerShell and look at PowerShell dictionary, we have to go and define a dictionary. So how will we go and do that? New object, and we have one. So this is the way to define a dictionary. So let's take this one, and I'm going to mention here new hyphen object, and I'm going to mention both are strings because both the values should be string. And I'll just close this here. And this should be good. Now once I define this, I'm going to add in each of the values. To add a dictionary, we have to just use this user type and mention as junior. So when there is no value, we are going to add the value in that. And I'm going to define one more variable where I'm saying resources to be modified. And I'm going to create an empty array, and I'm going to add this here. And this is good. So let us go and check whether this is working or not. So first let me go and define this, and then in each of this I'm going to run this. Now when I say resources to be modified, and I'm going to click FT, so I find the so and so ones, and I select name comma tags. I see all the values were actually user type junior, but none of them yet been modified in terms. I didn't push this entire values into Azure yet. Now similarly, I have still some more resources with no tag value. Those are not been yet modified. Only the resources in this list are been the ones which have tags, but I still have to take here resources with no tags and have to mention for each object, and I have to do the same thing here, but these are not empty strings. So if I go tags with resources with no tag value, and I go for tags, and I first take one element and I say get type, and they are also dictionary too, so I don't need to go and define specifically there. And but here when there's no, it's a null value, we have to go and specifically define it, otherwise it's not going to accept and it's going to throw an errors. But here it is already defined, so I have to just say user type uh, equals junior, and I have to say resources to be modified. So let me add this. So if we look at resources with tag value ft, we have this following things, and those will be added into this. So if you see there, that doesn't have automation accounts. So once we run this, all this will be updated. So let us go and run this. And now if I run resource to be modified, they have automation accounts also. Now I'll just see select name, comma, tags, and everyone are having one. So it just right now you have to say resources to be modified and take each of that values and pass it as az resource, or you can actually say for each object, and here we're going to say set hyphen az resource, and I'm going to mention it as hyphen force, and I'm going to run it as job, because otherwise it runs one by one, and I'll say sleep, start sleep for 2 seconds, so that every it will wait, and I'll say write output, and I'll mention here mm, resource. So I'll just check whether name. So before I run this, I just wanted to check whether it's going to give me the output or not. No, it's not going to give me an output that way. So I'm going to add this here. Yeah, cool. So I'm going to do here is I'm going to add this here, a resource m equal to, and mention resource name of resource tag value is updated for so and so resource name. That's it. So let's do it. I'm going to remove this, and so all the resources to be modified, I'm going to take each of it and run it as job, and I'll wait for 2 seconds and then run another set of the next set of each objects. So like that, so at a time I'm not sending the request and everything, and once this is done, get job, I'll say wait hyphen job, or I'll wait for, I'll mention count equal to count plus plus, and I'll mention here count equal to 0, What am I trying to do? So once I invoke jobs, I'll wait for 2 seconds. And then if count is percentage of 5 equal, so if it is 5, then I'm going to say that get jobs wait job, and I'll wait for the jobs to complete and then only I'll ask to proceed with the next ones. Just passing it in an empty value, and once that is complete, and if it is not equal, if it is less than 5, what are we going to do? So I'm going to say if it is less than 5, count is greater than or equal to. If it is greater than or equal to uh, resources to be modified dot, so I get 18. So I'll just mention it as count as this one, greater than or equal to, and I'll mention the dollar. So if it's either greater than or equal to, then this will be invoked. Otherwise, it will wait for the jobs to be completed. And this is good. And this is mentioned as equals 0. The remainder should be 0. And if the remainder is 0, then it will wait for it. So for every 5 jobs invoked, it will wait for that to be completed, and then only it will run. So I'm going to run this. So it mentioned that the tag value is updated for so and so. Okay. So what is the mistake we have done is when we do for each object, every time the count will actually be +1 and it was never being updated. So we can even try to do this way for each, and again we'll mention resource in, and here, and we're gonna mention that and when we run it as job, uh, we leave that value here in J. Okay, so that this won't be. So if we see right now, and tag value is getting updated for so and so resource, and instead of this right now we can actually keep it this way, and of resource type, this is more optimal solution than that for each. And let us see how this goes. So the tag value is getting updated. It will wait for each for 5 after 5 jobs, and it will wait for entirely to be completed, and then it will start invoking the rest of the 5. So we can go and check right now in each of the resource. So each of the resource tag value got updated to user type junior. Go into this automation accounts. We have everywhere user type as junior. So whichever ones which are having as user type, those will not be changed, because if you see uh, the resources to be modified is not tampering with any of the resources which are having senior anything. They will be left alone. Only the resources with no tag value and resources with no tag are the ones are added to the resources to be modified, and those are the only ones which we are changing. The rest of the change resources will not be there. So this is how we are achieving the first condition. So if you have any questions on this script, I'll post this script in the in the GitHub, and you can look for it. Thank you.